Hello everybody, Maven here, and today we're going over the top 10 new best weapons from Season of the Seraph. Now keep in mind, as lists usually go on YouTube, this is all an opinion, everybody's list will differ. Now, since the season just came out a few days ago, I have not personally used every single one of these weapons, but this will just be a general, commonsensical overview of how these weapons would be based off of their perk pools, their stats, and their weapon archetypes, after having done numerous weapon testing videos on this YouTube channel as well as my own personal testing. So some weapons on today's list may or may not be old weapons returning with new roles, and also keep in mind that there are a lot of really awesome weapons in this season that would make the list, but then again there's old weapons that can do exactly what those weapons can do, if not better. So some of your favorite weapons may not appear on here for that reason. But if I may have missed some really cracked weapon, feel free to share in the comments down below and I'll check it out. So this list isn't going to pertain particularly to either PvE or PvP. It's just going to be kind of a mixture of the two based on like the sought afterness of these things. So anyways, if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and let's get to the list. Hope you enjoy. So we're going to start things off here with our honorable mentions. There is a lot of them here, and don't get me wrong, all these weapons are really good. But there's just other weapons in the game that do what they can do already, so they're nothing special. I wanted to keep this top 10 lists to new weapons that fulfill a new role that we didn't have before. But there are some pretty special honorable mentions on this list that are pretty unique, like for example the long arm. The long arm is the legendary DMT, we all know, and it's a really good weapon. It feels really awesome, and I know that I'm personally going to be using it a lot, but at the end of the day, the DMT is still just better. When you're in hip fire mode, it fires quicker, and cranial spike is a really good perk. You know, you can't really make any argument for the long arm other than it doesn't take up an exotic slot. That's its only argument. And also explosive payload might be pretty neat on it. And then there's the Manticore, the new exotic SMG, which is no more special than a legendary SMG with rangefinder and really good stability. It's a very solid weapon, and the only thing special about it is that you can jump in the air with it. But in high level gameplay like Trials, that might get you in tough situations. You're gonna get team shot a lot. You know, that ability could potentially be OP or dumb to go for. We don't know yet. We'll see more when Trials comes out. And then there's the Ikelos shotgun, which I'm sure some of you guys have seen clips out there with the new Cascade Point perk. It is really cool on the Ikelos shotgun, but it doesn't have auto-loading holster, so it's going to be real sluggish, real clunky to use. And you know, other than Cascade Point, it's just a normal shotgun, except it can make war mine cells. It's not anything too special. And then the most honorable mention of all is going to go to the Retrofit Escapade. When you have volatile rounds, along with the roll of 4th times the charm plus target lock, you can fire for a very long time and it's a constant damage buff. So if this works the way that we think it does with volatile rounds, this could potentially be the new strongest DPS weapon in the entire game. But we will not know yet until we get our hands on this roll, so it remains to be seen. Now on to our actual top 10. We're starting off with the Cold Front. At the time you're watching this video, the Dawning event has launched and you can currently farm the Cold Front. Now 750 RPM SMGs are actually the best archetype of SMG in Crucible. If you take a look at the TTK chart, the 750s have the most optimal TTK and the highest body shot TTK as well. So they are overall the most consistent SMG. And we didn't really have any good kinetic 750 RPM SMGs. There was what? The Extraordinary Rendition. Perpetual Motion Rangefinder is a very good roll. There's a lot of 900 RPMs having that roll nowadays, but there are currently no 750s with that roll. There is another one that is going to come up later on this list, by the way. But the only good 750 RPM was really the Borrowed Time, which was in the energy slot, and you got it by farming a ton of Gambit, and not very many people really want to do that. So the fact that we have one that is a little bit more accessible and it's in the kinetic slot, this is really something special. This is probably going to be the go-to kinetic SMG for Crucible. And not to mention, it gets a very solid PvE role of Subsistence and Rampage. And next up, we have the Albruna D Gambit Sniper Rifle. It's a 72 RPM, the highest impact frame. I know a lot of Crucible sweats enjoy 90 RPMs better, the adaptive frames, but you know, some people, such as myself, enjoy the 72 RPMs because the higher body shot damage, better for team shotting, you know? And also, it does not have 50 zoom, which is a massive plus, because 50 zoom, nobody uses 50 zoom in Crucible because you're just gonna have a lesser field of view, harder to hit your shots. 40 is going to be the best zoom. However, 45 is not that bad because most 72 RPMs that are good in Crucible have 43 zoom, so 45 is not that bad. Now, if you are a sniper main in Crucible and if you play on an ARC subclass a lot, this is most likely going to be the new best in slot sniper for you, and I'll explain. Now, first I need to mention an old sniper called the Occluded Finality. It was another 72 RPM, and it had access to the perk Elemental Capacitor. Now, on an ARC subclass, Elemental Capacitor will grant plus 50 handling. With the right parts, you could actually get a solid 100 handling on this sniper, making it feel like pre-nerf Quick Draw and Snapshot, which is really good. And it also had access to the perk Opening Shot, which is the most broken sniper perk because it was even banned in scrims. It's so good at giving you a free headshot that it was banned in scrims. The only problem is that the Occluded Finality got Elemental Capacitor and Opening Shot both in the same column, the right side column. But now, on this brand new Albruna D Sniper, you have them in separate columns, Elemental on the left and Opening Shot on the right. So it's going to be pre-nerf Quick Draw Snapshot with Opening Shot. This is most likely going to be a very good sniper if you're playing on an ARC subclass. No doubt about that. If you are a sniper main in Crucible, you're going to have to farm a lot of Gambit this season. I'm sorry to tell you. On to number 8, we have the Wendigo GL3. Now, back in the day, this was the only ever heavy grenade launcher to get access to blinding grenades, which was very unique, very cool. They took that off now, which sucks. However, what it does have now is access to the brand new Cascade Point perk. So when you deal precision damage with your other weapons, it increases this weapon's rate of fire for a short duration. And I did some testing, and it turns out that it doesn't actually reduce your damage when you up your rate of fire. That's great. And unlike the Ikelos shotgun, the Wendigo actually has auto-loading holster in the left column, so you can take better advantage of that Cascade Point consistently. Now, I'm calling it right now. The Wendigo GL3 is going to be a big part of the sweaty DPS meta for sweaty farmers and sweaty speedrunners. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to pair this thing with the Izanagi's Burden and the Ikelos Sniper. So you're going to shoot your honed edge Izzy shot, reload it, and then swap off to your Ikelos Sniper, shoot 4 shots to proc your 4 times the charm, and that will also proc Cascade Point on your Wendigo. Swap to Wendigo, dump your mega rapid fire mag, swap back to Izzy, rinse and repeat. That's going to be the loop, and that is going to be meta. I'm telling you, it's going to be crazy. So when GMs come out, you're going to have to farm yourself one of these. At number 7, we have the Prolonged Engagement Stasis Viced SMG. Now, this is yet another copy-paste Recluse. However, we have had enough time with the funnel web to know how good it feels. Not only just how it feels in general, but how it feels to have Subsistence and Viced Stinger. And not to mention, on top of that, we have a new artifact mod this season that increases the effect of Viced Stinger, makes it proc more often. So you're not really going to ever have to reload with this kind of weapon. It is very excellent for ad clear and PvE. And now the fact that we have one of these in the kinetic slot is going to really help out our build crafting. And the role that I am particularly looking at with this thing is going to be Subsistence Pugilist. Because fun fact, my favorite all-time PvE perk combination has always been Subsistence Demolitionist, because I love grenade builds. Having to almost never reload paired with getting grenade energy on your final blows is amazing. And now we have this thing with Subsistence Pugilist, the new perk that is Demolitionist for melees. So this is going to be very excellent for melee builds. So now you're not forced to run the Monte Carlo anymore in the kinetic slot. Now we do have access to another pretty new SMG, the Blood Feud, which gets access to Pugilist plus Swashbuckler. Very great synergy for a melee build. I know it's another stasis weapon as well, another SMG. and you know, Swashbuckler is amazing and all, but just from the mere fact that this prolonged engagement has subsistence and Vice Stinger with that new artifact mod is just going to make it go over the top and make it feel so much better than the Blood Feud. It's going to be amazing for melee builds. And if you didn't want to use this thing for a melee build, you have access to another good PvE ad clear build in Feeding Frenzy multi-kill clip. And then not to mention, if you are somebody who loves using funnel web in Crucible, you now have the kinetic funnel web, because you can just throw on dynamic sway and rangefinder, and there you go. It's a kinetic god roll funnel web. Very, very excellent weapon for both PvE and PvP. At number 6, we have the Dark Decider auto rifle from the Iron Banner. It's a 720 RPM Vice auto rifle, so it's going to look and feel the exact same way as the Crate auto rifle. Now, 720 RPM auto rifles are very, very heavily slept on in Crucible. They're actually really good, and if you look at the TTK charts, it is actually by far the best optimal for headshot TTK and bodyshot TTK of all auto rifle archetypes. It is very excellent. But the big problem with 720 RPM auto rifles is we don't really have any really good ones. Mainly we don't have any that have access to the perk rangefinder like this one does. Now don't get me wrong, the Chroma Rush is a beast. It can get tunnel vision kill clip. I've used that personally in trials. It's great, it feels amazing. However, if you look at the stats of the Crate, which is the same kind of frame and look and feel of the Dark Decider, it actually has better stats than the Chroma Rush, but it doesn't really have better perks. You know, your best roll on that is probably gonna be something like Steady Hands Adagio, which is not bad, but it's not amazing. Now, there's also the Sweet Sorrow, which is not that bad either, but it doesn't have access to rangefinder, so it kind of suffers there. But now the fact that Dark Decider has what we want, it is awesome. You know, if you're a controller player, you have access to Iron Grip in the left column. Normally that's a right column perk, but it's in the left. So you can go Iron Grip rangefinder, and with the right parts, you can actually hit 100 stability for you controller players out there with access to rangefinder, so you're not really suffering too much on the range. That is excellent. This is going to be the savior of 720 RPM autos in Crucible. And also, if you wanted to use it in PvE, you got Subsistence right there, the best perk ever, and Volt Shot, one of the new best PvE perks. So this thing is kind of a jack of all trades. And number 5, we have the Rose Hand Cannon. This is another jack of all trades weapon, and this thing is very reminiscent of the Adept Pally, and we all know Palindrome is by far the best hand cannon in the game. Every time you compare it to anything else, it's just the Pally comes out on top, guaranteed. And now we have a kinetic Pally. There we go, you got your quick draw rangefinder right there. And then another thing I wanted to mention, similar to the Dark Decider, if you're a controller player and you like stability, with the right grip, with Elemental Capacitor on a Void subclass, with the right parts, the right masterwork, this thing can actually have 100 stability while still maintaining access to rangefinder. So that is very, very excellent to have. It's going to be near impossible to farm that roll, but if you can manage to hit the lottery, that is going to be a very, very solid feeling weapon, to say the least. And also, with this thing having a base aim assist of 85 means that if you put on a targeting adjuster mod and use the perk moving target, you can hit 100 aim assist. So it's going to be real easy to hit your shots. Some people out there in Crucible who are very sweaty like to slide a lot, so there's slide shot for you there. You got opening shot. Some people prefer that over rangefinder nowadays. Some people prefer Eye of the Storm. There's a role here for everybody. However, I would say that this is not much of a PvE weapon. Perpetual Explosive Payload is excellent, but in that slot, you already have the DFA Adept and the Time Lost Fatebringer, and those are just going to be better options. But it's still a very good weapon if you want to switch things up, if you just like the way that the Rose feels or sounds, because we all do. Next up at number 4, we have the Terminus Horizon Arc Machine Gun from the Spire the Watcher Dungeon. Kind of a curveball, didn't really expect to see this one so high on the list. However, I gotta preface this machine gun by saying that Bungie did not really nerf the Heart of Inmost Light Arc Titan. It is still very much one of the strongest, if not the strongest option in PvE still. So, the thing is, it's a grenade build. You're throwing storm grenades everywhere. You want that grenade energy. However, you didn't really have a good machine gun to pair with that. If you were doing a void build, you would always use the corrective measure with Demolitionist Adrenaline Junkie, and that is a cracked roll. Whenever I'm doing a void grenade build, I personally use that all the dang time. Now for an arc build, we didn't really have that grenadier type of demolitionist adrenaline junkie machine gun until the Terminus Horizon. So now we have the best in slot machine gun for an arc subclass, and you're gonna pair this thing with like the Wither Horde and, you know, like maybe a 1-2 punch shotgun, and there you go. That's gonna be the loadout. You're gonna have the perfect ad clear machine gun. It is gonna tear through stuff with that adrenaline junkie, give you back your storm grenade energy. This thing is going to be a staple of arc titans, arc warlocks, probably not arc hunters, but it's still going to be a very sought after weapon for these builds. At number 3, we have the Unwavering Duty Solar 450 RPM auto rifle from Trials of Osiris. This thing can drop adept. We currently do not have access to it yet. And another machine gun this high up, a little bit of machine gun favoritism here it seems like, but really no, this thing is just got tons of really solid rolls. It's kind of like one of the new jack of all trades, best machine guns in the game, because just like the Wendigo, you have access to auto-loading holster cascade points. So if you wanted like a burst damage machine gun to pull out of your pocket and melt down a major, there you go. And then if you wanted an ad clear build, you have subsistence killing tally. That is something that we always needed, because when we got the fixed odds back a couple seasons ago from the duality dungeon, we were like, oh, is this thing gonna be the new 21% delirium 2.0? And it wasn't, because it didn't have a way to reload its mag unless you use transversus steps. But now we have subsistence with the dang thing, so that is exactly what we needed to take full advantage of killing tally. So primo ad clear right there. And if you're doing a solar build and you cared about scorch and ignitions, you have subsistence incandescent. Not to mention ambitious assassin just got a huge buff and it's feeling amazing. And if you wanted to play PvP, you got access to dynamics play reduction plus tap the trigger. It's going to be super stable. It's adept too, so you can put, you know, adept stability if you're on controller, you can put adept range if you're on M&K, adept mag if you're doing PvE. There's a lot of options with this thing. It's amazing. At the number 2 spot, we have the Liminal Vigil aggressive tuber sidearm from the Spire of the Watcher dungeon. This thing is no surprise because everyone's talking about how insane it is. It's the first ever sidearm to get access to the Desperado perk, which makes this thing just shred through anything in either PvE or PvP. It also has access to Kill Clip, which some could argue might be better than Desperado. But what's really, really special about this thing is that it has access to the perk Tap the Trigger. That is extremely special, and I'll tell you why. So the last time that we had an aggressive tuber sidearm get access to Tap the Trigger, it was in Forsaken. It was the Smuggler's Word sidearm. I actually have one of these in my vault. I'll put a screenshot of it now. It's my baby. I always said it was the crown jewel of my vault because no aggressive burst sidearms other than this one get Tap the Trigger. But now the day has come, the day of reckoning. Liminal Vigil is here to put Smuggler's Word to shame. The crown jewel of my entire vault is being put to shame by this Liminal Vigil, because now we have Tap the Trigger again, which for those who don't know how this works, even if you have the new game setting to do full auto retrofit, it will still trigger Tap the Trigger, no matter if you're firing full auto or not, even though it says initial trigger pool. So Tap the Trigger, what it's going to do is it's going to grant you plus 40 stability on every shot. You know how insane that is, especially for controller players, because I even crafted the meta empirical evidence. It's a very meta slot at the moment. It's enhanced and everything. And guess what? It still kicks like a mule. I managed to get a Tap the Trigger Liminal Vigil, and the thing is already so much better, even though it is far from a perfect roll. I am farming my butt off right now to get Tap the Trigger Desperado or Tap the Trigger Kill Clip on this thing, or Tap the Trigger Rangefinder, because all of these are very cracked PvP rolls, every single one. This thing hardly gets a single bad roll. And if you wanted to use one of these things in PvE, you even have access to Headstone. There's so many options. This thing is just near impossible to get a terrible roll of. So this is a sidearm that now puts every other sidearm to shame. This is your new Drang, your new king. And on to number 1, and again, no secret, I'm sure y'all seen it coming a mile away. It is the Ikelos SMG. Now craftable with the roll of Feeding Frenzy and Volt Shot, and that's a broken roll because yes, the Jolt from Volt Shot will be able to proc Global Reach, giving you War Mind cells. Jolt is the best damage buff in the entire game so far that we had on weapons with Volt Shot. And man, it is going to be borderline impossible for any future primary weapon Bungie ever gives us in any future season to top the Ikelos SMG. This is going to be the PvE ad clear weapon all the way up through any content. You could be using it in Grandmaster with Overload SMG. It's still going to put in the work. Any kind of content you do, this is the only primary that you'll ever need. And just like we were talking about before with the Cold Front being the new best in slot kinetic SMG for Crucible because of Perpetual Motion Rangefinder and it being a 750 RPM, guess what? This is the other one I mentioned in the energy slot. Perpetual Motion Rangefinder, 750 RPM with very good stats. And if you're a Dynamic Slate type of person, you got that option there. If you're a Killing Wind type of person, you have that option there. This is going to be one of the best Crucible weapons as well. And the fact that we can craft it takes out all hopelessness of having to farm for a god roll, thinking that, oh, we're never going to get the god roll, we're going to have to farm this for years. Nope, it's craftable too. So this is just the weapon that everybody's going to have at all times on their character, on their person. And that is going to do it for the list. How was the list? Was it good? Was it bad? What's your list? Let me know in the comments down below. And man, this season has me hungering for farming these crazy god rolls more than every other season. And I'm not just saying that. There's some crazy stuff this season. Like, Bungie is really pushing that power level with the amount of weapons we're getting and the amount of perk combos. They have to start giving us some broken stuff that we'll actually want. So weapons are just getting crazier and crazier as the seasons go by, I swear. Lightfall better not disappoint with those weapons. We'll have to see. And the only thing that really has me disappointed this season is that we only get 3 roses per week. I wish we had a better way to farm them because there's so many awesome rolls for it. We gotta have a consistent flow of getting these things, but only 3 per week. But anyways, besides the point, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment. Those 2 actions really help the algorithm and the video's performance. And if you're new, make sure to subscribe. We do weapon testing videos, build crafting videos, DPS videos here. If that's your kind of thing, make sure to stick around. Hope you have a nice rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.